Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some Parmesan crusted chicken with a kind of creamy basil or tomato basil pasta sauce and some lemon poppy seed muffins. So let's start getting our pasta cooking. I'm going to put that in here. Just going to throw in about a half a box. Give this a little stir. We're going to let those kind of cook up because we'll be throwing them in our pasta sauce again. But now let's start on our lemon poppy seed muffins so that we can have these baking in the oven. So we're going to start with a half a cup of our sourdough discard. There. Almost. Okay. Put this right over here. I'm always afraid I'm going to knock my starter jar over, and that would be so sad. Not that I don't have backups, but it'd still be sad. So we're going to have a half a cup of our sourdough discard. There we go. Then we're going to put in a half a cup of melted butter. And we're starting with our wet bases here so that then we'll add in our dry ingredients towards the end. It just mixes up better for the muffins. Give this a little bit of a quick stir. And then we're going to add in 3/4 a cup of sour cream. The sour cream really gives that such a nice kind of moist texture to the muffins, prevents it from drying out. So we want 3/4 a cup of sour cream. It's about half. And it should be close to 3/4. And it should be close to 3/4. A nice stir and mix it up. I always like to stir it first, kind of start to get that sour cream smoothing out because it can get a little bit chunky in there. And you want to make sure it gets well mixed. So we've got our discard, our butter, and our sour cream. Then we're going to add in 1/4 a cup of heavy cream. There we go. I think this is a new one. Yep. So 1/4 a cup of heavy cream. We will use a little bit of cream later, about a tablespoon to brush the tops of each muffins, but we don't need, here we go, any more until then. And we'll use some to make our lemon glaze. So we've got 1/4 a cup of our heavy cream, and then let's put in our 2 eggs and we'll mix these in. So 1 and 2. I'm going to pop each yolk and then we'll start to mix it in. It's just easier if you pop your yolk first and then start mixing. It'll just mix in a little bit faster because sometimes your yolk will just keep sliding away from you. And I really like to use a spatula over my hand mixers with muffins because muffins are really easy to overmix. And if you overmix them, they become stiff. And I like a nice, soft, fluffy muffin. Okay. Now, let's add in our lemon zest and then our lemon juice. So we're going to zest a whole lemon and we're going to add it in here for our lemon poppy seeds. And then we'll add in the juice of a whole lemon. So you're wanting about a tablespoon of zest and like 1 to 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. We'll also be making a lemon glaze with our other lemon. And that's going to give you even more lemon flavor afterwards. But I will say the lemon zest is key to really getting the lemon flavor to come out in the muffin. Otherwise, the lemon juice gives you a little bit, but the lemon zest is really going to give you that lemon flavor in the baked good. We get this going. And I'm using, this is my Parmesan grater, but it works great for zesting fruit. It works better than my fruit zester. So I rarely actually use it for grating Parmesan cheese. It's always used for zesting. There we go. And and you pretty much just want to zest all the yellow off. You don't want to really get any of the white. The white has a bit more of a riney flavor. Let me grab a small knife over here. We'll cut it in half, and we're going to juice it in here as well.
I got a question. How was dinner last night?
Oh, it was fabulous. We were at my parents' house, and of course, they have a gorgeous outdoor kitchen. It's a outdoor kitchen of your dreams. It's very envious. And we made flatbreads, grilled chicken, grilled zucchini. And then we made shakshuka. I keep saying it wrong, but that's like that just Turkish kind of sauteed tomato sauce with fried eggs on top. So good to dip our homemade naan in. And they have a pizza oven, so we were able to like bake it up in there really well. First bit of naan got baked a little too well, but it was really good. It turned out it was excellent.
And everyone got to hear Jack.
Oh yes, little Jack, little Jack. He's a little shrieker. He is my wildest of them all. Yeah, of course, he's the last one, but he is sure is wild and crazy. He probably would have been an only child if he came first. Okay, so we're mixing in our lemon juice and our lemon zest. Now we're going to add in our baking powders, and this is going to be for our lemon poppy seed muffins, and then we'll get to making our chicken dish. We want to get these in the oven. Okay, so for baking powder, you're going to use 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I always add these in before I add my flour so they get dispersed well. So 1/2 teaspoon. And then we're going to add in our poppy seeds. We're going to add in about 1 tablespoon of poppy seeds. We're going to reserve a little bit for our glaze as well. But a little bit goes a long way with our poppy seeds. Don't feel like you have to pour a whole container in because then you might get a little too gritty. Okay, let's give this a quick stir.
You got a comment that someone says, apparently I'm not the only one who wears a hoodie all year.
Oh yeah, it is like my uniform. I always, when I have to wear real clothes, I'm always like, oh, my home clothes are so much more comfortable. It's either hoodie, leggings, or hoodie skirt, hoodie dress. It's a hoodie with everything, and I have an excessive amount of hoodies. I told my husband I want to take out one of my hanging racks in my closet so I can put shelves because I don't have enough room for my hoodies. Because everywhere I go, I got to get a hoodie because I got to have my themed hoodies. And then I have my favorite hoodies, which I'm like, okay, wear something else. You've worn this one like every single week. But it's comfortable. I like to be comfortable. I spent too many years dressing up cute, especially when I was much thinner in my youth, even though I'm still young. But my 3rd child did me in. I gained like 70 pounds with my 3rd child. And I keep saying, that baby weight hasn't come off and she's almost 10. Okay, we're going to add in a whole cup of sugar. This is going to add the sweetness to our muffins. They're not like overly sweet. I feel like they have the perfect balance of like being sweet, but not over the top. So many of those store-bought muffins are like cupcakes. These aren't as sweet as a store-bought, but they're still sweet. They've got that nice amount. So we've got a whole cup of our granulated sugar in. We're going to mix this up, and then we're going to add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour. But we want to mix. This is where we can mix. We can get all of our mixing in now, but as soon as we add that flour in, we need to limit how much we stir it because you want it to be chunky and lumpy because that's going to give you a fluffy muffin. This is a butter-based batter, and that butter in it, if you over mix it, think of how a cookie is. A cookie gets, you churn that butter and the sugar and it gets harder. Well, that will happen with a muffin if you keep mixing it because it essentially creates a paste like a pie crust instead of a fluffy muffin. So we're going to add in 2 cups of flour here. All purpose. No, you don't need bread. Doesn't matter whether it's bleached or unbleached, just 2 cups. Here we go.
Does it change the flavor at all?
whether the bleached or unbleached. No, that's just bleached. If you're using if you're doing sourdough stuff, this is sourdough discard, but we're not using it for the leavening process. If you are using it to bake sourdough bread, your bread won't get a good rise in it because all the natural yeast in it have been killed through the bleaching process. So it doesn't really change the flavor so much as it changes its ability to rise. But in something that uses baking powder, you don't. So we're gonna mix up our lemon poppy seed muffins. Remember, you wanna mix it up very, very gently, carefully. You want it to be chunky and lumpy. I always like to mix it to where the flour is just starting to disappear. So this is where I'm leaving it at. This is a perfect mix. It's gonna make it nice and soft and fluffy. Okay. Let's get our muffin tin out and ready. This recipe makes 12 muffins. That's always try to do a base one because for our family, that's about perfect. You know, since we're typically feeding 9 people here, that leaves 3 for extras. Or if, you know, you're my husband, he eats like 4 muffins and then regrets his life choices after that. But he's like, they're so good. I'm going to grab a spoon and spoon it in. With my muffins, I always fill them to the tippy top and overflowing because that gives you that big muffin dome. So we're going to go over and give each one a big scoop and then we'll finish off evening them out.
These are my favorite. I'm probably going to eat 6.
Yeah, these are anything that is a lemon or a lime flavored. That's my husband's favorite and he'll just devour them. He also really likes blueberries, but he has no control over lemon and lime stuff. There we go. Versus I'm the opposite. I'm not a big lemon and lime person, but chocolate and peanut butter, the scotcheroos made the other day, that was all me. I loved them, and they disappeared way too fast because I just kept walking by, and I'm like, oh, I just need just a little thing, and I'm like, then I got to even out the line as you're cutting it, and then somebody will cut it off, and I was like, oh, well, you got to have a straight line. You can't have a little edge, and whatever my justification, but I just love peanut butter and chocolate, like mixed together. It's so good, like peanut butter bars, scotcheroos, all of my favorites. But I do not like peanut butter cookies. And that's strange or chocolate cookies. But I do like chocolate chip cookies.
Lemon bars, those are good.
Yes.
You haven't made those.
I haven't made those. It's funny. I was sit there and I'm like, I made my lemon tarts for him. I'm gonna have to make them. My daughter, she, how we're doing this key lime pie tasting thing since we came back from Florida. And the first one she loved. The second one, she does not like cream cheese, apparently. So she's like, you have to make another key lime pie that does not have any cream cheese in it. And I was like, okay, we've got this.
You have a comment that they like your apron. Where'd you get it?
Oh, thank you. I got this from IKEA. And it was like $4.99. It was a steal. But I love it. And it's actually like kind of plasticky feel. Not that it's like fabricy, but kind of plasticky. So nothing really like sticks on it, which is nice for your cooking. It's one of my aprons that can last longer in between washes than some of my other ones. Some of them, it's like, oh, you made something with flour. It really shows up. Okay, we're getting our last of our thing. Don't want any of it to go to waste. We're filling them out, but you see, I bring all of it up to the tippy top because this is going to give you a nice big dome. And then we're going to cover them with some cream. And then we're going to do thing. And this is our lemon poppy seed muffins. And then it will be time for us to work on our chicken and pasta because our pasta noodles are just about done. Okay, let's pour in. We just need about a tablespoon of cream. You don't need much. This is going to help give the muffins a nice golden brown color. So we're just going to dabble a little bit on each one. Helps also keep them nice and moist. But it does help with the browning process. Otherwise, your muffins can look pale, which they'll still taste the same. But some people just, got to have that golden brown. Here we go. So nice little dabble. And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar over the top as well. You're going to use less than a tablespoon of sugar for this, but it gives you just this nice kind of sweet top. It just makes that muffin dome so lovely. And I figured that's the favorite part about muffins. I mean, if Seinfeld was able to create a whole episode by, oops, that one got a lot, muffin tops, then they must be onto something. Although I tried one of those muffin top pans once, and it's just not quite the same. It doesn't give you the quite as moist of a base. Brush that off. There we go. Okay, I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. So we're going to pop these in and we're going to let them bake for 18 minutes. That seems to be my golden number for baking muffins. So we've got it in nice preheated oven and we're going to let it bake for 18 minutes, and I'm not going to turn off my oven this time. Last time I made muffins, I turned it off. Double check, it's still on. I say that, and then it magically gets turned off. Okay, let me give my noodles a quick stir right here, and let me taste them. I want to cook them to about an al dente, so that they're still got a little chew because they're going to soak up some of the sauce. Yeah, they're about good. We'll get them now. You don't want to overcook your noodles. You want to keep them at a nice, I will say, like a little bit of a tough, because they're going to have a sauce that they soak in. And if you overcook them to where you think they're perfect, they're going to get a little bit softer with the sauce. Okay. So we're going to leave this right here. And let me bring my other pan over here. And this is going to be for making our sauce. Okay, let's get our chicken ready. I'm going to get my spices and everything ready for this before we start filleting. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to wash my hands anyways because I'm going to fillet with 2 hands. So we're going to cut each of our chicken breasts in half. And this is going to allow it to cook up faster, keep it nice and tender and juicy. When you try to cook a big fat chicken breast, you have to cook it for a long time, and that's what's going to cause your chicken to dry out. And it's just harder to cook more evenly. We're going to cut off this little bit of fat right here because that's just going to be chewy and it's not going to be very good. So trim it off. You're not really wasting any good meat there. It's just going to be chewy. It won't be good. Okay. There. That one. It looks like we got a little guy too. And let me cut off a little bit of that fat as well. And then when you're cutting your chicken, you want to cut against the grain and it will give you more of a jagged appearance in your cut, but it's going to make your chicken more tender. Here we go. Okay. Oh, there's a bit of fat. Let's cut that off. I always try to cut them off because they just won't, it doesn't taste good. All that white stuff. Okay, we should be good with our knife now. Do a quick hand wash. Okay. Now let's season up our chicken and we're get a nice little flavor on it, and we'll press some Parmesan cheese on it as well. We're going to use a little bit of A1 because even though I went to the store the other day, I failed to buy more Worcestershire sauce, but A1 works really well. It has a nice tomato base to it, so it's a nice, lovely flavor. It looks like I am getting down low on this as well. There we go. That's enough to season it all. So we're going to kind of give it a nice coating. And now we're going to sprinkle some oregano over each side. We're going to do each side, so don't worry. We'll have lots of spices. A nice little bit of dried basil. And then we're going to also use some Italian spices here.
I think the one's going to be one side.
Yeah, I said it's only going to be on one side, but that's okay. It has enough in there to kind of cut through it. And then we're going to give a nice kind of sprinkling of garlic salt. I'm going to now lay these out. This is going to be my dirty hand, and then I'll have my clean hand. I always try to keep one free when you're cooking. That way you can kind of maneuver around and do things. It's like a skill. You have to really think about it when you're cooking, but once you've done it, it gets kind of be secondhand. Now we're going to I have a little bit of Parmesan here. I've got another one, but we're going to sprinkle this on, and then I'm going to pat it down into the chicken. This Parmesan cheese is going to like crisp up on it, and it's going to be lovely. So it's shaved, so I'm just going to kind of crumble it. Shredded will also work well. Finely shredded does great with this too. But you want to use real Parmesan cheese, not that powdered Parmesan cheese, because that's not going to melt and crisp up as nicely. Okay, we've got our first side down. And then the trick to keeping this to stick on is you just got to really smush it in there, and then that cheese will stay on. So we're not doing a breading on this. We're really just doing a spice coating. But if you just pat it down firmly, and once you get it to start sauteing, it will melt onto your chicken and hold on. So I always just say, give it a good smush. There we go. We're going to flip over, and we're going to do the same on the other side, except minus the A1. We're going to do garlic salt, oregano, basil. I was going to do fresh herbs, but it was like a monsoon outside. And so I was like, you know what? No fresh herbs. We're going to just do dried herbs today. Dried Italian spices, which is a blend of pretty much basil and oregano, a couple other things. And then let me get my next one of Parmesan. And we're going to kind of, again, I'm going to kind of crumble this over the top, and then we'll pat it down so it really sticks on there for it. But it just will flake on there nicely. And this is just going to give it a nice little crunch. It will help it brown up and crisp up a little as well. But it's just a nice way to kind of give you that crunch on a chicken without having to do a heavy breading. Okay, got my pat it down. We're going to let it stick there. There we go. Just a good pat. Okay, my chicken's ready. Let me wash up my hands. Okay. And let's start prepping our vegetables and whatnot for our sauce. So let's do our little roundabout. Get my new cutting board and my clean knife. And I'm going to dice this up. I've got one small yellow onion here. I'm going to do kind of a mince on it, and then we'll start to saute it.
Yeah, a couple questions. First question, what's the cheese again, and could they see it?
Yes. So the cheese is just shaved Parmesan. I got it from Costco. I love it. It was like my new find there. My favorite. My kids all love it. My oldest daughter is like, you got to buy this. Keep buying it. We go through like one of these tubs in like 2 weeks.
And then the second question is, when you get a minute, can you go over everything that's on the chicken?
Yes. So for the chicken, we first used a little bit of A1 kind of steak sauce. It's a nice kind of vinegar base to kind of marinate it a little bit, give it a nice acid to make it nice and juicy. Then we used dried oregano and dried basil. So probably like a teaspoon for each like side of the chickens, like for all of them on each side. And then about a teaspoon of Italian spices and garlic salt. So just those kind of herbs. And then we press the Parmesan cheese onto it, which will give it, when it cooks up and sautés, it will melt and get crispy and give you a nice little crunch on your chicken, but without having to go through a heavy breading. Or if you're doing like a keto or a low carb diet, it kind of gives you that crunch without having to have any breading either. Okay, now let's mince up our onions here.
Can you recall where that's located at Costco? Like what section it is?
It is in it's in the refrigerated section where I'm pretty sure it's where they keep all of their cheeses. So I'm trying to think exactly which one, but it's where, you know how they have that whole aisle of artisan cheeses. It's there. It's kind of tucked in the side. at least at ours.
And how old are the children?
Our children, they range. We've got a big range. So 20 months, 4 years old, almost 10 years old, and 13 years old, and a 15-year-old. So we've got a big crew, big age gap too. Like we thought we had 3, and then we're like, oh, we wanted more, and then thought we couldn't have more, and then Teddy came along, and then I was like, well, Teddy really needs a sibling. He's such a big age gap. We're gonna add in our minced up onions. And then Jack came along, and sweet Jack, oh, love him to death, but whew, he definitely keeps me on my toes. He enjoys being naughty. He'll look at you when he knows he's not supposed to do it and like stare you straight in the eye as he does something. But he's cute. But
I get a question. Do you cook breakfast like this?
I typically only cook 2 big meals a day, and then my kids have to fend for it. So either we do like a brunch, or we do a lunch. And so it just kind of depends on our schedule for it. But no, they have to fend for themselves for 1 meal a day. You know, the little ones, of course, I'll get them meals, but I do not cook like this for all 3 meals. That would be crazy. But I find this way it's actually like cheaper than trying to buy processed foods or whatnot. You know, I could make a nice healthy meal for a fraction of the cost because pasta's cheap and chicken's cheap, and you know, the produce and whatnot, especially when my own tomatoes start growing in. So it's not, you know, people are like, oh, doesn't, I'm like, it takes me like 30 minutes or so to make it, but it's, you know, budget friendly and it's tastes better. Although sometimes my kids are always like, oh, why can't we just go get McDonald's or Sonic or any type of fast food or Chipotle? My oldest daughter is always talking about how she needs more Chipotle in her life. And I'm like, Chipotle is expensive and I can make it better at home. She does not like that response. But, and it's not, that's what I say. I really enjoy cooking. You know, everybody has like a love language, their love, you know, and to me, I love cooking for people. So, especially when I get to control it and make things that I like. There we go. Getting nice thing. I'm going to turn this down a smidge. We're going to do our chicken in just a second. I'm going to start heating up that oil. It doesn't take long for the chicken to cook because we cut them in a bit. So I'm going to heat it up, and once it's nice and hot and sizzle, we'll put our first sets of fillets in. I'm cubing up or dicing up my tomatoes here. They'll reduce down a lot as we cook them. You just want to make sure you don't have any really big tomato skins, because the tomato skins won't reduce down. And so if you haven't chopped them small enough, then you'll just have a really big skin in your pasta.
You have a question. What kind of cutting board is that?
This is like an OG cutting board that I have had since college. I got it as a Secret Santa gift back in the 2000s. I graduated, I think I got it for in like 2008 or something like that. And it is just a good plastic big board. I like it because it's so big, and it's hard to find them. I did find a set that I have over at my parents' house that I keep with our outdoor kitchen there, which is kind of a big one like this. And I added it to my storefront because lots of people have asked about it. So it's very similar to this, and it's a set of 3, but it kind of comes in a big one like this, and then a medium and a small. I absolutely love it because they're not super heavy. They're really big space, and they're really easy to disinfect and to clean. You know, you can pop them right in the dishwasher and really, like, especially if you're cutting meat or chicken or something on it, you can really disinfect them, which is what I love about them. And they don't really damage up your knives. Okay, we've got our tomatoes here. I'm going to give this a nice stir, and then we'll be working on the rest of our kind of creamy tomato basil pasta here. We're going to add in a little bit of pesto into the oil that we're cooking, as well as some garlic. This is going to add a little bit of flavor as we saute up. And this pesto I got from Costco. It's one of my favorite brands because it tastes really good. Sometimes you can buy pesto that has just a funky flavor to it. This one I love. This one and Rana's pesto. Those are my two favorites. I really like them.
Question: do you prefer plastic cutting boards over wood?
I have wooden cutting boards that I use for breads. The problem with wooden cutting boards that I have found, let me put my garlic in first, is that they warp and they're really hard to clean and disinfect with things that are, like meat and stuff like that. So I have about 20 wooden cutting boards. I got stacks under there of cutting boards, but I primarily use them for like charcuteries or bread. I don't really use them for cutting up produce and things because I struggle to keep them clean. And then I'm going to admit, I'm just not very big on having to oil something and maintain it. I just like to be able to disinfect. So, and that's kind of where I like it from it. And it works well. Okay, we've got our tomatoes cooking in here with our garlic, our onions, and a little bit of pesto. We'll give a nice kind of flavor to this. We're going to let this saute up. And then I hear our chicken. I got a little tomato juice in there. So it's starting to bubble, and it's letting me know that it is ready to fry up our first batch of chicken. So we're going to carefully put them down. I'm going to grab some of those flakes that I pulled off. We're going to do half of it now and then half of it on a second batch. You don't want to overflow it, or then you just want to get a good sear on things. There we go. So I've got my chicken breasts in here. I'm going to pick up some of that cheese and we're going to sprinkle it over. There we go. And we're going to let it crisp up. That cheese will melt and it will get like a kind of a darkish golden brown. It will be just delicious. Okay, let's get our tomatoes. Give them a good stir here. I'm going to smash them up just a smidge. And we're going to let them start to kind of reduce out their liquid and nice flavors. Let's chop up. We're going to add some spinach to it as well in just a second. Sneak in some veggies there. If you wanted to add fresh herbs, basil would be amazing in this. Again, I was going to go out to my garden, but at the time it was raining so hard that I was like, yeah, we'll skip the basil today. We're going to use, I've got some baby spinach here. We're just going to do a couple chops on it just to make it a little bit finer. But if you have regular spinach, you're going to want to chop that up for sure. Baby spinach, a lot of times you can get by without chopping it. But with this, you want to, with the regular, you definitely need to chop it up. There we go. So just a few, it doesn't have to be like crazy. Let's grab a couple of my spices here.
Yeah, what time do you ever use pork rinds as breading?
You know what? I have tried it before and it works okay. I will say sometimes you got to really you can't let it sit on your food right away or it gets a little mushy, but it is good. It gives you a nice crunch, especially if you're looking for a carb-free option. I also find almond flour, if you use that, actually can do really well breading as well. We put about a teaspoon. I'm actually going to use the rest. Teaspoon of basil. We're going to use about a teaspoon of oregano in here. Okay, we're going to give it this nice kind of lovely flavors. And then we're going to give it a shake of our Italian spices, about a teaspoon as well. Our oven is calling us, so let's grab our oven mitts because our muffin should be ready and we can make our glaze up for that. Let me grab a trivet here. I see the oven is still on, so we should be good for our reveal. Look at our beautiful lemon poppy seed muffins. They are gorgeous. They've got a nice pop on them. Beautiful. Okay, let me cancel this out. We're going to make a lovely lemon poppy seed glaze to go over them. So we'll get that whipping up here in just a second. But these are they really puffed well. Okay. Let me give it a nice little stir. And then look at our beautiful, you can see they've like got their pop throughs, which is going to be so nice and lovely. We're going to make a glaze using fresh lemon juice, powdered sugar, and a little bit of cream. And it will be so lovely. Okay, let's get that going while we're working on it. We're going to zest our lemon first. I find the lemon zest works really well, and the glaze gives you a bit more flavor and a little bit of a crunch to it. So just a little bit. You don't need a whole lot of lemon zest. And then we're going to add in the lemon juice first. And then after we mix it with some powdered sugar, we're going to add in the cream. I find if you try to add the cream and the lemon juice now, your cream will curdle. So we want to mix it with some sugar first. And we probably only need half of a lemon. You need just about a tablespoon because you don't need a whole lot of glaze. Grab out those lemon seeds. And then let me grab my powdered sugar and a fork and a spoon. I'm keeping an eye on all my things that are sauteing, but luckily they have a good minute to wait. We're going to start off with about a half a cup of our powdered sugar first. We're going to add it in there, and then we'll also add in some poppy seeds, but I like to give it a good mix up first.
Do you have a question? Are you cooking dinner tonight, and about what time, if you are?
Yes, we are cooking dinner tonight. I think I'm going to do fish and chips. I've got some cod. And we'll do chips and a coleslaw. And I'm guessing probably like 7. What time is it now? Well, probably like 7:30, 7:45. What?
Central.
Central time, yes. I always forget about that there's other time zones out there. Yes. We're going to add in our poppy seeds. You don't need a whole lot because a little goes a long way. And now we're going to add in a little bit of our cream. And I really like the cream in my lemon glaze because it cuts through the really tartness of the lemon. So you just want about a tablespoon of cream in there. We'll mix it up, and then we're going to add in some more powdered sugar for our muffins. Here we go. And then we're going to go check on our chicken real quick. We'll take a pause because it looks like it is cooking up lovely. Beautiful. We've got our nice, see that cheese that's melted and crisped up right there? That's going to add a nice crunch on it. It gives it that golden brown color, but it's going to be so delicious. That's a piece of cheese melted right there. Okay. Let me give my little stir here. I'm going to turn this down. Okay, let's get to our glazing. And then we'll drizzle this glaze over. I like to glaze the muffins while they're still hot, which means you got to glaze them within like 5 or so minutes of coming out of the oven. That way the glaze kind of melts over it. So these are still good. So here we go. Look at this nice glaze. You use just about a cup of powdered sugar, and then our lemon juice and our cream and some poppy seeds. Let's glaze these. But look, we've got a nice firm touch on all the muffins, so it shows you that they're nice and done. They're pale because of the sour cream. The cream gives you a little bit of goldening, but they are delicious and moist. And the lemon poppy seed glaze is just going to add a nice tart of like tarty lemon extra to this. It adds a bit of sweetness, and the poppy seeds, of course, give you that really pretty little crunch to it, as well as their good healthy benefits. But these are one of my favorite ways to do lemon poppy seeds, and they're just so lovely. And that zing from the glaze, I think, adds a little bit extra because the lemon zest inside the muffins gives you a bit of more of things, but the glaze is really what gives you that nice, delicious zing. And little Chef Teddy loves licking the glaze bowl. And when I'm done, it's his favorite thing. He comes in and he just loves them. There we go. And these are good for you. They use our sourdough discard in it.
You have a question? how do you test chicken doneness?
So for me, I know chicken cooks about, like when you fillet them this thin, it's about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. It doesn't need that long. When you flip it, you can kind of see that it's already cooked halfway through. But the biggest thing is when you touch it with your spatula, if it's firm, you know it's cooked all the way. If it has a bounce to it, then you know it needs to be cooked a little bit longer because that inside isn't done. You could always do it the way of getting out your thermometer and checking to see if it's at 165. But I find that once you've been cooking it a while, you really know what's done. And you know by the look of it, the texture of it. It's also a reason why I always fillet mine, because when you fillet them, they cook a lot faster. And you don't have to really worry about that because they have less of that inside that needs to be cooking. We've got our baby spinach coming in here. We're going to add some cream in just a little bit because my kids love a creamy pasta sauce. And then we'll throw in our pasta as well. We're going to let that kind of wilt up. Let me grab a plate here because we should be about ready to take off our first batch of chicken. I'll grab myself another spatula. There we go. Let's see. Nice, beautiful, crispy edge. I'll let those two cook just a smidge longer, but this little guy, he's definitely done. Turn it up. I always find I always have one part of my pan that is on the burner more than the other parts, so that one always cooks a smidge faster. Okay. You know, it's funny. So we had a whole bunch of spinach we popped in here. Now, when you look at it, it's like reduced down to almost nothing. I always say spinach is one of those things, it disappears before your eyes. It's probably why you're never full after you eat a salad. Okay. We've got our first sets of chicken done.
We got a follow-up question on the chicken. So if it's firm, that means it's cooked?
Yes. Because when you feel how it is, when you feel a raw chicken, there's just a lot of give to it. But if you cook it and you see that it's golden brown and you've done it for about 3 or so minutes with this about thickness on each side and it's firm, you're going to know it's cooked all the way through. There we go. And I'm just going to take some of these extra little cheese crumbles and we'll place it right on top. There we go. I have mine cooking on about a 6 now with our things. You don't want to go too high because a lot of people make the mistake of cooking their chicken too high so it looks done on the outside and it's not done in the middle. So I always keep my oil up to high, but then I reduce it down to about a medium and cook it that way so it can evenly cook through it instead of just charring the outside. Okay. Let's add in a little bit of garlic salt. We're going to give it a little stir. And I'm going to see before I add my cream in, I want to see how it tastes. Good. Because when you add cream in, it's going to mute all of your flavors. So I always like to make sure it's really strong in the flavor tints before I add it in. Otherwise, my flavors will get muted. Okay, we're going to add in about maybe a 1/3 cup of cream. You don't need a whole lot of cream. It goes a long way. But heavy cream works much better than half and half because half and half will give you a very runny sauce. And we like ours nice and thick. So we've got our lovely sauce here. And now we're going to stir our noodles into it. And we'll just break them up in there. You could have always tossed your noodles with oil, but I find once it hits the sauce, they all come apart. There we go. And we're just going to really coat these up with our sauce and make it delicious. Let me grab this and slide it around. There we go. And then pop it up. This is always that Pasta is one of my kids' favorite meals. They love it, and it's so easy to make. And I will say it's a very nice budget-friendly meal for families because pasta you can get fairly cheap, and you can really jazz it up for hardly any. It doesn't require a lot of extras to make it nice.
You had a question. They notice you use garlic salt a lot, but when they do it, they feel like their dish ends up too salty.
Then I don't use any regular salt. I just use garlic salt. And then you just probably have to cut down on it, and just depends what your flavors that you like. You can use it like if your dish calls for a teaspoon of garlic or a teaspoon of salt, you can use a teaspoon of garlic salt. But it's going to be how salty you like it. And it might be that you're adding more than what you want. I'm cooking for a large amount of people. So if you're making it smaller for you guys, you're going to have the ingredients because it's not, as for as many people.
And you have a question, where can they find the whole recipe for this?
So we do upload our videos to the link on our page so that if you ever want to recreate these recipes at home, you can just go and find that link, or go to the link and find the video, and you can recook along with me at home. It's the best way to do it. I do offer some recipe cards for our members and in there, but that is extra work for me. So those are kind of, for those who are willing, who want to go the extra mile, I should say. But we do offer our videos for everyone, so it's always a great way. I'm going to take some of my shredded Parmesan here, and we're going to just sprinkle it over the top. I'm not going to stir it in. I'm just going to let it sit there and kind of melt. And you don't need a whole lot, just enough to kind of coat the top, and it will melt it in. And this will give it a nice kind of cheesy flavor to it. Okay, let's get ready to kind of serve up. Let me grab another little cutting board so I can cut my chicken. Let's see. We'll just grab one of my knives. Okay. So we've got our lovely chicken. I've got a serrated knife, so it's not doing the best cut on it, but my other knives were already dirty. So we've got our sliced up chicken. And this is how we are going to serve it up. I'm going to turn off all my burners. So now that my cheese is starting to melt on top, I'm going to give it one final stir. And that way it's going to just have a nice cheesy flavor in it, but you don't need too much. And then let's serve up our pasta here. This is with our fresh tomatoes, spinach, garlic, a little bit of pesto, but just delicious. A nice bed of our pasta. And then we like to serve it with our chicken fillet right on top. So you've got a nice, delicious chicken pasta. And we'll top it off with a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top of it. And then, of course, let's not forget our lemon poppy seed muffin for dessert with our beautiful lemon glaze. And we use fresh lemon juice and lemon zest in it. And there's sourdough discard in it. So, of course, it's got that healthy prebiotics in there for it. But it just makes for a nice, easy summer day lunch. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what I'm making for my family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. We do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for the title of what we made, grilled chicken and pasta, and then rewatch it at home and cook along with me. I know they also transcribe all of the videos, so you're able to really read what I say. And then we also have an Amazon storefront where we put all the products that I use in my kitchen if they're there. So like I have my pans, my hex cloud, my all cloud, the knives and the cutting boards that we use. So it's on the link on our page, on our profile page. So you can always go there, check out the products that we use if you're interested in them. I do make a small commission off of it, but again, that just helps us out as well. But thank you guys for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.